I believe those lights can be fixed by a new wheel speed sensor. Certainly hope so because I already bought it. Good morning. In today's video, we're gonna be fixing this Land Cruiser that has 212,000 miles on it, and I bought it for $3,000. To be completely honest, I personally think that $3,000 is a very reasonable price for this car. However, Toyota tax has been absolutely crazy. You guys just love overpaying for your cars because you happen to have reliable engines. I'm into German cars, so I can't relate to the reliable engine part. However, all I can say is that I can make a decent amount of money on this car if I straighten out all the little issues that it has, because I bought it for $3,000, and I think I might be able to get it onto Cars and Bids and make some decent money for it. Hopefully, maybe, I don't know, maybe not. As you can see, I sort of kind of already started working on this. It is jacked up on that side because I think we have a bad wheel speed sensor on that corner. And this wheel speed sensor is one of the main reasons why I bought it for this cheap, because currently the ABS and VSC lights are on the dash, which, to be fair, are the only lights on the dash. Well, there's 3 of them, and they're obstructed by the steering wheel in the sitting position that you know, whatever. We're just not gonna talk about the poor design of this. The phone is currently right at my eye level, and we can't see them. Why? Because they're over there. Okay, I'm gonna upset some people, and honestly, no, I do like this car. I think it's great. I love the fact that it has 212,000 miles and runs extremely well. And some things they definitely did very right on this car, but there's just a few things that are bothersome to me. Keep in mind that I'm very spoiled by German interiors. I'm very spoiled by German engineering, and because all I've ever driven and all I've ever dailied was German cars. I can't say I've done a lot of research and know for sure that it's the sensor, but all I did was test the resistance of the sensor on the other side. We got some resistance numbers, can't remember what they were, and we did that on this side, and we got absolutely nothing, in the sense that it was infinite resistance, meaning that the circuit is probably broken somewhere. Unless for some reason these cars have different kinds of wheel speed sensors on each side. That would explain this also, but I doubt that's the case. I don't think Toyota would do that. Definitely sounds like something this guy would, but hopefully shouldn't be the problem here. However, what is a problem here is just rust. I mean, I can't say this thing is definitely not incredibly rusty by any means, but it definitely has some rust. So this here is definitely not nearly as bad as the Sequoias of this generation. Those things rotted out like crazy. Land Cruisers were built in Japan and are in significantly better shape when it comes to rust and almost everything else on these cars. And here's the wheel speed sensor in question, and as you can see, things are a little crusty over here, meaning that taking out this wheel speed sensor might turn out to be quite an adventure. And by adventure, I mean extremely boring process of trying to yank that out of there, which I'm not gonna record because nobody's gonna be interested in watching that. All right, that's finally done. Digging that sucker out took about 2 hours. What helped a lot is putting screws in through there. Not too far, but deep enough to actually grab onto the sensor and pull it out with these long needle nose 90-degree pliers. These were actually very useful. So now we just got to get rid of all the little brackets that hold it all over the place, disconnect it here, and put in our new one. We're gonna have to Dremel this out a little bit. Gotta disconnect it right here. This guy's all the way out. Cool. I think we're good. Well, I hope so anyway. All right, let's see how it went. I am relatively confident that at the very least you'd have to erase the codes. Whoa, hold up, they're not showing up already. Whoa, hell yeah. Okay, I honestly did not expect this to be that easy. The lights are gone. Hopefully that sensor serves us well and for a very long time. Next, I am gonna touch up all these little areas where we have some paint peeling and rust forming. We definitely want to get rid of that. I did already sand this down so we can just apply the paint right on top. Now with that fixed, I noticed another issue on this car practically this morning. I've noticed slight symptoms of this earlier, but it wasn't it wasn't as bad until today. I am gonna try and replicate this. I can't promise that I will, but there's this noise that keeps coming and going. And the reason why I'm putting the wheel chocks down, fancy word for blocks of wood, is because it seems to happen a lot more when the car is in drive. That should be enough, I hope. I guess we're gonna find out. So I'm gonna set one of my mics over here where I'm gonna try and not forget it, and hopefully that's gonna show you. As you can see, the noise is currently not replicating, so I'm gonna throw it in neutral. You guys hear that rattle? And it seems to get a little less bad once the car warms up. It was just really bad this morning when I was driving out and the car was cold. Initially, I had thought that it was one of the accessory belt pulleys, which is a pretty common issue on many cars, especially cars with this many miles and this long of a life, which is 212,000 miles, by the way, in a 2002. And if you're not too familiar with car repairs, accessory belt is right here, and that drives your power steering pump, alternator, little things like that that basically need some engine power and are connected to the engine using this belt. Frequently, these little pulleys here can get worn out, or the bearings in them get worn out and start making noises. And that's kind of why I thought that it was the pulleys at first, because the rattle seems to come and go based on the engine RPM. However, after doing a quick search in Google, something came across and made me think that maybe we just have a rattling exhaust heat shield. I haven't actually confirmed this yet, but that is my first guess, and we're gonna try and find out if that's the case. So because I'm not very familiar with these cars, this is gonna be trial and error, because I generally don't know what frequently is the issue on these cars. And based on just my audible perception, it seems like the noise is coming from this side of the engine, which is why my first initial thought was that it probably is this heat shield right here, which, I don't know, it seems very secure. I see no reasons to believe that this is our problem. I guess we have to try and check the other side. So I'm not seeing any issues with these heat shields here. It seems like they're pretty well secured, and I don't think that's what's making our noises. Which I guess is good for the heat shields, but it's bad for our diagnosis because we have no idea what it is anymore. It's kind of funny how the noise comes on when you really don't want it to, and then when you do need it to replicate, it's kind of gone. But I think it's there once I rev up the car a little bit. So I'm gonna bring the mic down under the car and let you guys listen for yourselves. I wonder if I can try and get the gas pedal slightly pushed down to rev it up and see if I can search for the source of the sound while it's running. I'm gonna try and use this stick thing to push down on the gas pedal just ever so slightly. We don't want it floored. I actually think it might just be an exhaust leak. Oh, that's perfect. Oh yeah. This is probably it. I'm gonna bring up the mic. It doesn't seem like it's rattling itself, but somehow, some way, there's a noise generated in there. Anyway, I think this is sort of kind of good and bad news. At least we found out what it is. However, I don't love working on exhaust, so but it is what it is. So my welding experience is next to zero. Actually, relatively recently I documented my very first time welding, and I've done one little other project with the welds since then, but I definitely don't think I'm qualified enough to weld exhausts. So this might have to be a project we fix down the road. And I don't know what it is about Toyotas. Why do they rust so much? Even these, like, so generally Sequoias and Tacomas and Tundras have a really big problem with rusting, at least in the Midwest and the Rust Belt areas with a lot of salt and snow. And I mean, it's a massive safety issue. Frames rust incredibly badly, and lots of people get their cars totaled. The good news about the Land Cruisers is that they were made in Japan, unlike the ones I mentioned previously, which were made in Indiana, USA. I guess they just used very poor quality metals and poor quality coating for the frame, and leading to that. However, with cars that came out of Japan, it's not nearly as bad. In fact, the frame on this car, I mean, that's something I really looked out for because I had a really bad experience with this Sequoia early on in this channel. It has been documented. However, I gotta give you a disclaimer, the video quality in those videos is absolutely terrible. So yeah, check it out at your own risk, but I probably wouldn't even recommend it. So I checked this frame, it's great. I've absolutely zero holes. Anything that's would sacrifice the integrity of the frame is not there. There's some surface rust, but it's clear that it was previously coated with something, and it seems like the coating is pretty old. So I think before I sell this car, I am going to strip off the old coating and apply new fluid film. Based on the research I have done, that is the best way to coat frames to prevent any serious rusting. But outside of the frame, there is some rusting issues for sure. And maybe it's just poor paint. I don't know. I can't help myself but compare these cars, these Toyotas, to the Touaregs, just because I have so much experience with the Touaregs. Or maybe just the fact that German car owners wash them more when their cars are new and they don't get this rusty this soon. As you can see, we have some significant paint bubbling going on and all sorts of rust. Luckily, the actual metal is still okay. Like, I'm not pushing through it, but it is very visibly rusty and the paint is having a hard time. So I think we might end up completely removing these lights, the latch, handle, and grinding this all down and respraying it. Definitely not looking forward to this, but you kind of had to do what you have to do. And it all really depends on what I decide to sell this car at. Currently, I'm fixing everything with the assumption that this car is going to go on Cars and Bids. And if you know anything about Cars and Bids, cars need to be really clean there. They won't even let you post it if the car has any significant issues, such as this major hole in the fender. So I am not sure if I'm gonna be able to find a fender and replace this, or if I'm gonna see if my body guy is able to fix this by cutting this off and installing a new piece of sheet metal.